We need to show you cryptos, including XRP and Ether. Everything is jumping here. Now, if you look at Bitcoin, it's at 98,552, spiking here. Ether is better by 8.7%, Litecoin up 5%. XRP, which Gary Gensler's SEC had filed suit against and had really been going after, right now it is popping about 6.25% to $1.19 on news that Gary Gensler, the SEC chair, will step down on President Trump's inauguration day. Let us turn to the International Criminal Court, which has issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. The ICC accusing them of, quote, war crimes after Israel moved to defend itself when terrorists invaded Israel, killing 1,200 mostly civilians on October 7th of last year. The warrants mean Netanyahu and Gallant would face the risk of arrest if they travel to one of the court's 124 member nations. Now, the ICC also issued an arrest warrant for top Hamas military leader Mohammed Deif, who Israel said it already killed in a strike, but the court says it hasn't independently determined whether the terrorist is dead. The ICC is after Netanyahu and Gallant for alleged crimes against humanity during the Israeli military response in the Gaza Strip, including the use of starvation as a weapon and directing attacks against civilians. The warrant comes as Prime Minister Netanyahu ramps up his efforts to bring Israeli hostages home. There are currently 65 hostages presumed to still be alive in Gaza, and Netanyahu is now offering a $5 million reward per captive to any Palestinian or anyone who helps secure their freedom. Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Danon, called the ICC decision the pinnacle of diplomatic terrorism. He joins me now first on Fox Business. Define diplomatic terrorism, if you could.
Well, it's another attempt to use an international body in order to attack Israel. We have seen it at the UN. Now it comes to the ICC, the International Criminal Court. And in all this, the equations they made, putting the Prime Minister of Israel, a strong democracy with a strong judicial system, together with a terrorist organization for the first time. And actually, they tried to do the same to the US. But when the U.S. threatened to apply sanctions against the ICC, when your soldiers fought terrorism in Afghanistan, and now they're coming against Israel. We are fighting because we have no choice. It's a war of self-defense. We have 101 hostages. So what the ICC expects us to do? To abandon the hostages, to say that's it? It will not happen. Even after the court decision, we will continue with the war until we will bring all the hostages back home.
$5 million. Per hostage, per captive, whom anyone in Gaza could somehow get to freedom. Where is this money coming from?
It will come from our government, and we are serious about it. And we are offering to those people who are willing to help us to get out of Gaza and get their reward. We value life, and we will help those who are helping us to bring those people. We're talking about kids, babies, the Beavers family. They are still in captivity for more than a year. We are willing to go a long way to bring them back home.
What about those babies? I'm thinking of the red-headed babies that so many people, their hearts just broke seeing that these terrorists took them as hostages. Is there hope they're still alive?
So unfortunately, we have no sign of life from them. We hope that they are still alive, but we don't know. The Red Cross is not visiting the hostages. The UN is not capable of doing much. And that is why we are continuing with this war. We are not abandoning them, despite the pressure. Yesterday in the Security Council, they tried to pass a resolution which called for a ceasefire while forgetting about the hostages.
Didn't even mention the hostages.
It did, but without a condition. So basically they said, first, ceasefire. Then let's talk about the release of the hostages. That's unacceptable. People should understand. The war can be over tomorrow. If the hostages will be released, Hamas will lay its weapons, we can move on.
Ambassador, the allegation, though, is that the starvation that the world is seeing in Gaza is basically due to Israeli military hindering aid from getting to those people in Gaza. Now, we just saw a report where a bunch of aid trucks were stormed by gunmen, not Israeli, and they basically held up these trucks and took all of the aid. So why does the ICC not see that, not understand that?
They didn't care about the facts. They know the facts. First of all, there is no starvation in Gaza. There is a dire humanitarian situation, but no starvation. Second, like you mentioned...
Can I be fair here? And we have seen lots of video. We know that there is a huge number of the population, children, who are really suffering here. I mean, hunger, let's call it hunger maybe, that is an issue. I'm not saying Israel is the reason, because obviously Israel has the right to defend itself, but will the Israelis acknowledge that part of it?
There is suffering. No one can ignore it, but the suffering is on the shoulder of Hamas, who started this war. And like you mentioned, we don't stop aid to go into Gaza. But the problem is that Hamas is taking over the trucks and the aid. They hijack the trucks, and the aid is not going to the right places. We will continue to coordinate with NGOs, humanitarian efforts, but at the end of the day, the only way to build a future for the people of Gaza is to get rid of Hamas. And the sooner we do it, the better it will be. So the attempts of the ICC and some people at the UN to block Israel from eliminating Hamas, it's not helping the people of Gaza as well.
The hostages, back to them and this $5 million reward. Money talks, does it not? Has there been any response between the announcement of the $5 million reward for anybody who's able to release one of these captives? Anything yet?
Well, it's still early, because only a few hours ago the Prime Minister issued this announcement. We know that people are afraid of Hamas. They are killing people, torturing them. The people of Gaza are suffering under the occupation of Hamas. But I hope we will get some intelligence that will allow us to bring back hostages.
Well, we've seen that, obviously, the video of the female soldiers who were taken hostage on October 7th of 2023. It's just heartbreaking.
And it's not only Israelis. You have American citizens,
yes,
Russians, French, British. It's not only Israel. People tend to forget about the hostages. We cannot forget about them.
Ambassador to the United Nations, Danon of Israel, we thank you very much.